The situation at Rangers is reaching a point where it's hard for many to bear, and now it seems the club is just days, maybe hours, away from announcing Danny Röhl as the new head coach. That's right, not manager, not leader, but another head coach. And for many fans, that phrase alone already brings a sour taste. Why? Because what the supporters truly wanted was someone with authority, someone with backbone, someone capable of coming in and shaking up a team that has been drifting without clear direction. Instead, we're staring down another appointment that feels less like a bold decision and more like a compromise made behind closed doors. Danny Röhl, for all his positive attributes, does not represent the figure of strength and leadership this club so badly needs. It feels like we're watching the same film on repeat. Another coach who will nod along to whatever is decided in the boardroom. Another figure who will toe the line under the leadership of a sporting director who, let's be honest, has already lost the trust of a large section of the fan base. Kevin Thelwell, whether fans say it loudly or whisper it through gritted teeth, is a name that sparks more frustration than optimism. And with Patrick Stewart still holding his position at the top, many are wondering how long this cycle of questionable decisions and defensive press conferences will keep turning. Now, if the reports are accurate, and it seems like they are, considering the consistent noise coming from various insiders, Röhl is going to be presented to the fans as the man we always wanted. We've heard that line before, haven't we? They'll sit him in front of the cameras, shake hands, smile for the photos, and act as if this was always part of some grand, carefully planned vision. But let's not pretend this is how it all started. Let's not ignore the fact that Röhl had already turned down the job once. That's public. That's documented. So the big question is, what changed? Did Rangers suddenly up their offer in desperation after being snubbed by others? Was Röhl swayed by new promises? Or was it a case of the club having no other options left after the likes of Kevin Muscat and Steven Gerrard gave them a polite, or maybe not so polite, no? Whatever the truth is, this appointment feels reactive, not proactive. It feels like Rangers have gone out cap in hand, begging for someone to take the job rather than commanding respect and attracting a leader with vision and credibility. And that leads us to a fundamental issue: control. This isn't just about who wears the tracksuit on the touchline. It's about who pulls the strings behind the scenes. Because if Röhl is being brought in with limited power, with someone else buying the players, making the key decisions, shaping the squad and culture, then nothing's really going to change. We've seen what happens when a head coach doesn't have full authority. The ideas are diluted, the dressing room becomes confused, and results suffer. That's the last thing this club needs right now. Now, to be fair to Röhl, his background isn't without merit. At 36 years old, he's still young by managerial standards, and his path has been unique. No real playing career to speak of, but he spent time learning from some of the top minds in football. He's worked at RB Leipzig, Southampton, Bayern Munich, and most notably, he was part of the German national team setup. That sort of experience doesn't fall into your lap without having some level of tactical intelligence and professionalism. And then came Sheffield Wednesday, his first crack at management. And honestly, he didn't do badly at all, especially considering the chaos at that club under owner Dejphon Chansiri. You only need to glance at what's happening with Sheffield Wednesday now to understand that Röhl's time there was probably more valuable than the raw numbers suggest. Yes, he managed 89 games. Yes, he won only 34 of them. Yes, his win percentage hovers around 38%. But the context matters. He took over a club in disarray, finished 20th in his first season, and improved to 12th in his second. That is not a miracle, but it is progress under pressure. And that sort of calm, focused mentality could help Rangers, if, and only if, he's given the space to actually lead. Röhl's footballing philosophy is also something that deserves attention. He's not rigid. He doesn't cling to one formation or one way of playing, which might actually suit Scottish football quite well. He's known for high-intensity football, pressing with urgency, favoring quick transitions, and structured possession. He adapts his setup based on the opponent, whether that's a 3-4-2-1, a 4-2-3-1, or even a 4-5-1. That sort of tactical flexibility could be key in a league where Rangers face both low-block defenses and quick counterattacking sides every single week. More importantly, Röhl wants his teams to play with identity, with purpose, with a sense of who they are and what they're trying to do. That's something Rangers have sorely lacked for quite some time. Defensively, his teams tend to play with a compact mid-block designed to compress space and force mistakes. That could be a massive help, especially considering the defensive frailty that has plagued Rangers even beyond the managerial carousel. Roll also brings a strong focus on player development, a human-centered approach where man management is key. He wants his players to believe in the system, believe in themselves, and push together as a unit. It's about building a culture, not just managing training drills. And let's be honest, Rangers could use a cultural reboot right now. But even with all of these positive traits, even with the upside that Roll might bring to the table, the underlying frustration remains. This wasn't the statement appointment fans were hoping for. This doesn't feel like a turning point. It feels like the latest in a string of decisions made to protect the power of those above, rather than to truly rebuild the footballing side of this club. The sense that whoever was going to come in had to be a yes man. Someone who won't rock the boat, someone who won't demand full control, is hard to shake off. Because if that's the case, it doesn't matter if you bring in Danny Roll, Pep Guardiola, or Johan Cruyff himself. If they're not allowed to lead, they won't succeed. And so the fanbase waits. Waits for the press conference where they'll try to spin this as Plan A. Waits for the sound bites. Waits for answers to the same old questions. Who's making the decisions on transfers? What role will Roll actually play in recruitment? Will he be allowed to build something? Or is he just another piece in the puzzle of a system that's already broken? Will anyone in the media have the courage to ask these questions? Will they press the people responsible for this mess and challenge their track records? It's not about being negative. It's not about shooting down every new name before they even step into the dugout. It's about demanding better, about holding the club to higher standards. Because for all the money, history, and passion tied into Rangers, this cycle of settling for less needs to end. And it won't end just because a coach with decent credentials and a solid philosophy walks through the door. It ends when the club decides to hand real power to someone who deserves it. Someone who isn't afraid to challenge the hierarchy, build something meaningful, and bring Rangers back to where they belong. Right. Now, Roll looks set to take the hot seat. And as fans, of course we'll support the badge, we'll support the players, and yes, we'll give him a fair chance. But let's not pretend everything is fixed. Let's not pretend trust has magically been restored. Because trust, once broken, takes a lot more than a press conference to earn back. Roll's appointment, if confirmed as expected, will carry the weight of enormous expectation, not just because of who he is, but because of what he's walking into. This isn't a team in transition. This is a club teetering on the edge of disillusionment. The fans aren't just frustrated about results. They're exhausted by the lack of clarity, the lack of accountability, and the constant sense that the people running Rangers are more interested in control than in creating a winning team. Roll might be stepping into one of the most demanding jobs in British football, not because of the title race alone, but because he's entering a storm of discontent where every decision, every result, every substitution will be scrutinized through a lens of suspicion and impatience. The irony is that he might actually be the kind of coach who thrives in difficult environments. At Sheffield Wednesday, he had to fight uphill battles every single week, dealing with an owner who was more of a problem than a partner. And yet, in spite of the chaos, Roll managed to stabilize the team, improve performances, and inject belief into a fractured dressing room. That tells you something. It tells you that he can work under pressure, that he can build cohesion out of mess. But the challenge at Rangers is on a completely different scale. This is not just about surviving the season. It's about challenging Celtic, reclaiming trophies, restoring pride, and doing it all with a style of football the fans can believe in. Whether he'll be allowed to implement his ideas is still the biggest question of all. Because if Roll arrives with a vision but no authority, then what's the point? If Kevin Thelwell remains the one deciding who comes in, who leaves, and how this team is shaped in the long term, then we're back to square one. And fans have seen enough of square one over the last few years. There's been far too much chopping and changing, far too many rebuilds that collapse before they even begin. The appointment of Roll, no matter how modern or clever it might seem on the surface, will mean nothing if the internal structure of the club continues to operate in a way that limits footballing freedom. Now, some of Roll's strengths might buy him time, especially his emphasis on player development. He's someone who wants to grow talent, not just spend money. And in theory, that should suit a club like Rangers, who can't afford to go toe-to-toe with the financial power of Premier League sides or even the top continental clubs. Developing young players, improving squad depth, finding value in underappreciated signings. These are all things that could serve Rangers well. But again, that depends on whether the recruitment process is aligned with the head coach's vision. If Roll is handed players he didn't ask for, or worse, players who don't fit his system, then we're only going to repeat the same frustrating cycle we've seen before. One thing Roll will need to do immediately is win over the dressing room. This squad is not short on talent, but it is short on identity. That lack of cohesion has been obvious all season. Even when results come, performances are rarely convincing. There's a fragility to this group, a sense that when things go wrong, there's no one to rally them, no leader to drag the team through rough patches. Roll must become that voice. Whether he does it through tactical clarity, strongman management, or a combination of both, he needs to instill belief. Quickly, players need to know their roles, understand the system, and feel like they're part of something that's going somewhere. That's where his tactical flexibility could really help. Scottish football is not forgiving. One week you're facing a deep-sitting side who only want to frustrate and counter. The next, you're being pressed all over the pitch by a team trying to make a name for themselves at Ibrox. Roll's willingness to change formations, to tailor his strategy based on the challenge in front of him, might allow Rangers to finally develop some consistency in approach, something that has been sorely missing under previous managers. It's not about reinventing the wheel. It's about getting the basics right and building from there. The psychological side of things is also critical. Roll is known for treating players like people, not just athletes. That sounds simple, but in a high-pressure environment like Glasgow, it can be the difference between a squad that folds and a squad that fights. When players feel trusted, they perform better. When they believe in the project, they push harder. Roll has a reputation for creating that environment. He listens. He communicates. He demands standards, but he also supports. That's a balancing act not every coach can master. But if he gets it right, he might finally get the best out of a group that's been underperforming for far too long. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. There's a proper buzz rippling through the Scottish football scene this week, as whispers grow louder that Lewis Ferguson, captain of Bologna and one of Scotland's brightest midfield talents, is on the verge of a dramatic move back home, to Rangers. Sources close to the player suggest that negotiations between the Ibrox side and Bologna have quietly gathered pace over the past few days, with only the final touches said to stand between Ferguson and a return to the club where he once came through the youth ranks. For many Rangers supporters, it feels like the story has come full circle, the prodigal son possibly returning to finish what he once started. Ferguson, now 26, has made a name for himself in Serie A, leading Bologna not only with the armband but also with his fierce determination and tactical sharpness. His consistency, eye for goal, and leadership qualities have earned him plaudits across Italy and regular starts for Steve Clarke's Scotland side. Yet, as the rumors swirl, there's talk that Ferguson's heart has always remained in Glasgow, and that the pull of Rangers, the club of his family's legacy, might just be too strong to resist. Some insiders claim that a deal could be announced as early as next week, though both clubs remain tight-lipped. Bologna's recent struggles and form may have opened the door, while Rangers, keen to reinforce their midfield ahead of a crucial title push, see Ferguson as the ideal blend of grit and class. Fans have already taken to social media, dreaming of the sight of Ferguson in blue once again, dictating play at Ibrox as chants of Super Lewis echo from the stands. It's still all whispers and winks for now, but if there's even a shred of truth to this, Rangers supporters could soon be celebrating one of the most emotional homecomings Scottish football has seen in years. Until anything's confirmed, though, it remains in the realm of speculation, a tantalizing rumor, but one that feels just a heartbeat away from reality. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.